Child's rights advocate. Tell us more about the rights of children. Maybe let's start from there first.
Okay, thank you once again for having me on this show. About the rights of a child, it is good to know that we are all evolved children. Just like you said earlier, you're a child too.
Yeah.
So every adult can relate to childhood.
Yeah.
The innocence of a child, the vulnerability of a child,
Yeah.
and the dependence of a child. Now, what is the right of a child? Every child has a right to life. Every child has a right to be alive, a right to survival, a right to health, accessibility to health, to food, to education, and also to have their rights promoted and protected from exploitation or discrimination. Those are the inalienable rights of every child.
Okay, so this year's theme was inclusion.
Yes.
And if you look at that word inclusion, we always find it very difficult, both for even for women. We always have women inclusion.
Yes.
Now, even persons with disability will also always have inclusion.
Yes.
Now we're talking about children. Inclusion as well.
Yes.
How can we achieve these, either as parents, teacher, and even the larger society? How can we achieve this?
Now, when we talk about inclusion, it means that, look, we need to factor in our peculiarities. Children have rights too. Most times, people feel children do not have rights. For example, the Child Rights Act was passed in 2003, but it was not domesticated in so many states till after 20 years. We were still talking about advocating for passage of these rights because some people felt that children do not have rights. So some states say, having domesticated, call them the protection law. But now we are saying that every child has a right. And when we talk about inclusion, we are saying that whatever laws, whatever policies are made, whatever is put in place as a government, as a non-governmental organization, as parents, or as duty bearers, we must factor in the interest of every child, the welfare of every child. Whatever laws are being made, is it in the interest of the children there? We have a lot of laws, conventions we are signatories to, and what have you. We must ensure that the interest, the welfare, and the comfort of every child is factored in. And that is why we say there must be inclusion.
You know, talking about inclusion, it bothers me why we say have so many out-of-school children.
Yes.
And that's a big blow for Nigeria.
Yes.
What do you think are the barriers that we face in actually tackling this menace? You know, where we have, despite the global efforts all around, Nigeria is still baffled with this.
Yes.
Some countries still do, but you know, let's domesticate it now. Now that you're talking about domestication, let's domesticate it. How do we tackle this, most especially for children who need to go to school?
Now, out of school children, the menace, let me call it that, is not something that the government should solely be shot for. Because a lot of states have basic education free and even compulsory. But we have bottlenecks like culture, poverty, issues around child labor. Now the economy is such that even children are now co-breadwinners. And it now disrupts quality education.
Yeah.
So when you talk about having our children in school, I think the platforms are already there. We have a lot, the government is heavily committed to having our children in school. This is evidenced by even the budget. We have a lot of laws that see that children be in school, policies by state governments and what have you. But when we have poverty, number one, not just financial poverty, but poverty of the mind. We have been ravaged with issues like Boko Haram that sees Western education as a challenge.
Yeah.
These are things we need to talk about. The state of the mind of certain people. Then having incentives to keep children, not just going to school, but to keep them in school. Like school uniforms, like books, like enabling environment, like safe spaces. After the insurgency, we have had a lot of parents saying that my children will not go to school. I can't afford to have them killed or abducted.
Yeah.
That was when it birthed the Safe School Initiative. in 2017 or so.
Yeah, 2017.
Yes, that said that, look, we have to have our schools safe. There must be safe spaces so that children can be in school. So a lot of things, culture, tradition, security, poverty, and the state of mind of our people are bottlenecks that fight, the issue of having our children not just getting into school, staying in school, transitioning, and having school education being meaningful to them.
I think one of the major points for me is the state of mind, of the people, and of course the role that government needs to play in making sure that education is compulsory for every children, because that's the main point. But for you, what are some of the key things that children should thrive and reach their full potential? Because these days, you hardly find that children do they still do lesson teachers? I find it very difficult to believe. What we have now is you have the iPads and children sit down with it, they watch all sorts. But let me just ask you, how do you think children need to try these days to attain their full potential? That
is a good question. Because we now see that education is just that point where we can express ourselves. Now we have the Gen Zs. Ingenuity. A child will stay with an iPad, and it is amazing what comes out of them. Now we have to look at exploring, discovering, and developing their ingenuity. Children are skilled beyond even the digital space. We are celebrating Vodi today, Sheyi Vodi. He's a tailor. He's a designer who started in 2001. Vicky James is a designer. We are celebrating Hilda Bassi, who is a chef. So we need to start discovering their potentials beyond the classroom. Classroom, yes, for literacy. Classroom, yes, as a means of self-expression. But skills is another thing. The government, we need to, as government, start to look at polytechnics once again as an avenue to develop skill, to discover and develop skill.
Now that we're even trying to move away from polytechnics and turn them into a University of Education.
No. Polytechnic should go back to its original blueprint, a place where skills are developed, technical skills, technical colleges. You can see a boy of 12 repairing a phone. And in the Western climes, these people become millionaires. But here, they are looked at all these menial labor, menial skills. Construction. We still import people to do POP and install air conditioners. Whereas in other climes, they are very wealthy. We should start looking at having platforms where they can discover, develop, and deploy their skills. The Board for Technical Innovation has come up with a tech competition where two people from each state, they come up with skills and they go outside to have their competition and they are rewarded. So beyond having Western education or Western university education, we should begin to start looking at how do we now discover, develop, and celebrate ingenuity through skills and other technical strengths that our children.
Okay, so before I ask you about the Child Rights Act in 2023 and how the implementation is supposed to be done, there's something that just crossed my mind, and that has to do with the abuse of children.
Yes.
It marvels me these days. There was a celebrity of recent on social media who claimed to have, maybe slept or raped a 15-year-old minor. Come on.
Oh, yes. And he bragged
about it. Yes. So how do we begin to address all of these things? Because it's not big, aside from the child labor that we see, there's a child molestation, sexual molestation from both from the boy child and the girl child. How do we begin to address this?
And to add to it, that has a very bad effect, and it follows that child to adulthood. You see a damaged child. When getting married, a damaged woman is rehabilitated by the husband. A damaged man is rehabilitated by the wife. Child abuse, child sexual abuse is a very terrible thing. Now, on the part of government, beside the Child Rights Act, we have the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Law, that prohibits every form of sexual abuse against minors. Now these laws are in place. At the state level, we have a sexual assault referral center, the SACS. These are civil society that come together to respond to issues of sexual abuse. Yeah. And now, beautifully, we have the social media that brings this to bear. Before, there was a culture of silence. Things were happening in rural areas, peri-urban areas, and even in urban areas, and there was this culture of silence for fear of shaming of the victim, for fear of stigmatization. Yeah. But now, because of the social media, when you see something, if you cannot do something, you say something. You use your phone and you film. And now the awareness is large and there's a lot of response. Now the government has NAPTIP in place to respond to issues of sexual abuse or abuse of any kind against children.
Even children trafficking is even paramount.
Child trafficking, child labor is even at the bottom of the ladder compared to when a child is molested by the father. Some months ago, I had to respond to an issue of a 9-year-old girl that was molested by the neighbor. There was one, a 3-month-old child was being molested by a father that was insane. Okay. So these issues are there. Things are put in place, but I must tell you, this is not a responsibility that only the government or non-governmental organizations can handle. Yeah. We must all see ourselves as duty bearers, as stakeholders, that whenever we see something, even when the signs are there, let us flag it. Say something. See yourself as someone that must see to it that this menace ends.
Interesting.
Yes.
The Child Rights Act of 2003
yes.
Still remains far from full implementation. You know, how can we do more to ensure that the rights of children, Nigerian children, are actually protected? That will be my last question to you.
Yes. Far from being implemented, but there's work in progress. I've just told you now. Everyone was you were a child. I was a child. We can relate to.
I'm still a child. My mom.
In fact, I even celebrated.
My mom called me on May 27th.
I am an orphan, but I still relate to myself as a child.
Of course, you are.
Yes. Look, the issue of childhood, when we look at the future, we are evolved children and we are still children. Implementation of the Child Rights Act, just as I said earlier, is not a one-man show. It is a collective responsibility. Let us see ourselves as responsible for bringing an end to anything that does not promote the rights of the children. We are all major stakeholders, as the media, as government, and as non-government organizations, as institutions, as society at large. Every child is your child. Yeah. So when we talk about implementation, it is not a one-man show. Yeah. If there are laws have been ratified. If there are policies, they are there in each state. Things are put in place. Yeah. Yes, it's far from implementation, but the question now is, what role can I play to ensure that the right of every child is protected, is preserved, and it is promoted, and they evolve to a meaningful future where every child, being an adult, is adding value to the system.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Shari Sanata, thank you. It was a nice conversation. I wish I had more time, but we have to go.
We will come back.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Indeed. And happy Children's Day once again.
Happy Children's Day to you.